Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Saturday evening to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there tonight and had yourselves a wonderful day. And I hope everyone's been having a great last weekend of 2024. We're about to head off into 2025. And as we do, we're going to introduce a totally new weather pattern that's going to support well below average temperatures for the central and eastern U.S. and even a shot at an Arctic outbreak. I think this is going to come in waves. And I think as we get several days into January, we're going to unfortunately have a shot at a significant Arctic outbreak. I mean, it's one thing when you get cold weather in January, it's another when it is life threatening. And we might get into stuff like that as we get several days into the new year. I hope it doesn't get as cold as what some of these models are showing, but I'm going to talk about it. We're going to go over all the model data. And yes, this is going to bring winter storm chances. I think somebody or maybe a lot of people are going to have multiple opportunities at winter weather, even all the way down to the south and pretty far south potentially also. So some of this stuff is going to trip you out a little bit. Just remember, this is not a forecast, especially remember that when I show you the snowfall graphics, things like that, what we are the most confident in is temperatures being very, very cold. What we're the least confident in is those winter storm chances and the time frames and things like that. After we get done discussing that, we will nerd out with you guys a little bit and discuss the pattern evolution and why it supports such a dislodgement of cold air down into the lower 48. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. If anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. We were praying for you folks in the Deep South as you guys are getting hit by a significant severe weather outbreak. Right now, you guys have been dealing with tornadoes since this morning, so definitely thinking about you guys. There's a lot of great people that go live, whether you're a storm chaser or you're somebody like Ryan Hall that's feeding you guys live radar and things like that and keeping you guys alert. So don't blame you one bit if you need to tune into that. So with all that being said, let's get rocking and rolling. So this is the latest from the Climate Prediction Center. The new one was issued around 3 or 4 o'clock this afternoon. This is the 6 to 10 day outlook. So this is on out ahead of us. And this takes us through the 3rd through the 7th of January. So they're going for below average temperatures. Basically, if you live in the blue, you got a shot of below average temperatures. If you live in this darker shade of blue right here, that's where you have a 70% chance of temperatures being below average, below normal for that time of the year, which January, guys, is the coldest month of the year for just about everybody. I don't know of anybody where January is not the coldest month of the year. Now, certain states and locations have different months as far as snowiest times of the year, but the coldest month of the year just about for anybody is January. You go to this lighter shade of blue, 60% chance. This shade, 50, and just drops a little bit more as you get to these lighter shades of blue. So that is the 6 to 10 day outlook. All right. Let's go to the 8 to 14 day outlook. This begins to shift a little bit further west, and I could see this shifting even more west tomorrow as far as like higher confidence moving more to the west. But the confidence is even higher percentage-wise for below average temperatures, even further out, which is pretty wild because it's way out. It's even further out ahead of us, right? So in this purplish color right here, that's an 80% chance. Includes the Carolinas, of Virginia, West Virginia, areas of eastern Tennessee and Kentucky, up into Maryland. 80% chance of temperatures being below normal in this time period, which, by the way, I wish I had all this memorized, is the 5th through the 11th of January. So at this point, we're getting through the first 1/3 of January. This is a 70% chance, 60, 50, 40, and 33% chance. I could see this shifting a little bit further to the west. Now, let's show you the precipitation outlook for the same time period. Kind of freeze this image in your head. Below average temperatures forecasted for the entire I-95 corridor and just everybody in the eastern U.S. Okay, let's look at precipitation for the same time period here. Okay, going for drier than normal conditions, most likely for the Northeast. But it's not a high percentage that way, 33%. It's basically leaning towards drier conditions. That doesn't mean you're just absolutely not going to get a winter storm in this time period. They're just leaning towards more dry air. But once you get a little bit further south, through the 5th and through the 11th, okay, they're leaning wetter. Now, wetter could be snow, it could be rain, it could be something in between. But they're leaning wetter along the Carolina coastline, the southern sections of Georgia, all of Florida, southern Alabama, southern Mississippi, and all the way to Louisiana and the coastal sections and just off the coastal sections of Texas. Now, in this kind of grayed out area, you might as well say that's around a chance of average precipitation. Okay, it could go one way or it could go the other. The thing that I'm not seeing in this is a large area of below average precipitation being predicted, which is what you see a lot when you have a large amount of cold air diving down. You're not seeing that. Now, I will extend this to the 3 to 4 week outlook. Folks, this takes us all the way. This takes us, I believe, through the 11th, through the 24th of January. I mean, we're getting towards the tail end of January. They're thinking this pattern sticks around, folks. So already through the middle to the 3rd week of January, 60% chance of temperatures being below normal. And we'll look at the precipitation outlook on this too. And they're leaning towards, they're leaning wetter, which in this case would likely be more wintry, more snowier, or icy, whatever the winter storm may do or don't, depending on if we get a winter storm. So this is definitely a look to me that screams coastal lows, nor'easters, winter storms, and this is getting towards the middle to the later part of the month. So I wanted to, break that down. I think this is important information. These are from the experts, the National Weather Service Climate Prediction Center. I think it's very important to break this down. Now let's break down some model guidances. And this is the latest Euro ensemble from this afternoon. And we're going to start all this off for the morning of the first morning of 2025. You're already starting to see below average temperatures showing up down here in the blue. That indicates bluish greens. These colors up here, that's well below average temperatures. And the warmer looking colors on your screen, the yellows, the oranges, the reds, that's above average temperature. So as we continue to move forward, I think we'll get the first of many cold fronts that moves through. So this will set the stage for a pretty cold morning like the 2nd of January, well below average temperatures. And this like greenish color right here, that's like 10 to 15 degrees below average. So, if your average low temperature is like 35, for example, in Alabama or Georgia, or just naming off some random states, then you could have low temperatures like next Thursday morning in the low 20s. Okay, so you keep going here. This first cold front with the cold air that follows might moderate a little bit, but still hanging on to a below average temperatures. And look at this little slither right here. Not little, pretty large area of well below average temperatures coming out of Canada, the higher latitudes. Then another shot of cold air. At this point, we're about a week from today. We're getting this polar connection from the higher latitudes up here in Canada. And this is just in this green to almost shade of whitish purple. That's temperatures 10, 15, 20 degrees below average. But it gets colder. Okay, we might have a little bit of a moderation period as we get several days into January. And if you're wondering about the time periods we're at, this is like the 6th of January, shows it right here. And if you do see any movement behind me, well, we're good. It might be a cat. I got 5 cats, and I'm the only one in the house, and they're going crazy on the other side of the door, and I got one right here to my left. So any movement from my regular people that tune in, it's just cats, guys. Not a ghost or anything like that. But anyways, you keep going. Below average temperatures really just start to take over the northern sections of the country and oozing all the way down to the southern tier of the country and taking over the entire eastern section of the lower 48, and it just gets even colder. We get past 10 days, January 8th, January 9th, and this is all the way to the morning of January 9th, and the Euro ensemble, guys. This area right here, look at the key. That's 15 to over 20 degrees below average for early to mid-January standards, climate-wise. That's their coldest time of the year. So this is going to be just brutally cold air, and then it situates itself right over the southeast and just areas of the mid-Atlantic, the Ohio, Tennessee Valley, areas of the deep south. I mean, this is just a huge corridor of 20 to 25 degrees below average temperatures, folks. I mean, these would be highs well below freezing for even areas pretty far south. And this continues, and just the cold air just anchors and hangs around. I mean, this goes all the way out to the morning of the 12th. And just brutally cold air. I mean, if something like this was to verify, I mean, even areas like in the southern cities would have days on end of sub-freezing temperatures. And just to look at the latest Euro, the actual operational model run, we'll start off with the morning of the 4th. We'll go to the 5th. And then it wants to basically just show this Arctic front, and behind it, you start to get Barney coming up here. And when you see Barney, that's starting to get to 25 to over 30, 35 degrees below average temperature-wise. And watch how this just settles in across the middle of the country. It's further west. It's dumping the cold air a little bit further west, so the high plains, I mean, areas of the western U.S., just east of the Rockies, getting brutally cold air. But everything supports this dumping eventually to the east. But this would be an awful situation for areas that's already seen a similar situation in February of 2021 in Texas. Not a forecast, but this wants to dump, I mean, just brutally cold air into the central U.S. For example, let's just move this a little bit further here. If I was to like zoom into the central U.S., that's 30, 35, in some instances close to 40 degrees below average. And this is like the evening of the 9th of January. Okay, but let's go back to the whole entire lower 48 as a whole. This continues to ooze to the eastern U.S. and just widespread anywhere from 20 to 35 degrees below average. Continues to just affect the country. It moderates a little bit, but it's crazy that it moderating is still 15 to 20 degrees below average. So this is brutal. And the latest GFS run that just ran this evening, it wants to follow suit of what the Euro did last night. It even makes it just about even colder. And the same thing, folks, it does, like I said, you're going to be cold the first few to several days of January. There's a little bit of a moderation period. And I've talked about this many times in my videos. I think we're going to have a little bit of a warm-up for like a day, and then a true Arctic front moves in. And this is when we can have that Arctic outbreak as we get several days into January. And this pushes through. This is just the first front. And then a reinforcing Arctic boundary drops down, dumps all this cold into the south central U.S., and then eventually pushes it all the way into the southeast. And behind it, a reinforcing shot comes in the 9th and 10th. And it's just round after round of cold air. The GFS is a dangerously cold Arctic outbreak. I mean, it is pipe bursting cold. Ponds freezing up in the south, cold. Ocean effect in the Gulf of Mexico. Ocean effect snow in the Gulf of Mexico type cold. I mean, it's historic cold. And it's something that we don't want to see. We don't want it this cold. You guys know that I'm a fan of cold weather and snow. I don't need it being 20 degrees below zero with no snow on the ground. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would like a winter storm, but I don't need it to be 20 to 30 degrees below zero. But it's an outrageously set of cold model runs today, and that just continue to trend colder. That's the alarming thing. Let's talk about winter storm chances. Let's go over the GFS run it still has everybody going crazy tonight across the eastern U.S. And I'm going to show you why. Guys, I'm just going to go on and skip I'm not going to skip it. It's here. There is the potential for a little bit of energy to ride through the Ohio Valley and the southern Alps as we get into the next weekend. I think we'll have some energy that could bring a little bit of snow to certain areas like in this region right here, but I don't think it's going to be a big story at all. I think our first storm system, and I'm getting pretty decently confident now, about a week from today, we're going to have a storm system that gets amped up over the middle of the country. This is storm system number 1. This is a week from today. We're getting into Sunday, January 5th. You see it up here. I think that this low pressure is going to be cutting through the country, but cold air is coming on top of it. This is, showing snow across Missouri, areas of Kansas, into the Midwest and the Great Lakes region. Now, I think snow is pushing this low pressure and making it go more zonal instead of just flat out cutting all the way up into Canada like this. So as this continues to progress forward, I think this storm's going to happen. I don't know who's going to see snow, who's going to see rain, but I do like this storm happening. This brings a winter storm across areas of the Northeast, but then it switches it to rain because of the unfavorable location of this low. It's what happens after this. We're starting to get past the first weekend of January, okay? Now watch what happens next. We're getting 8 to 10 days out. Cold air begins to drop down, southern stream interaction with northern stream energy. You can see what's about to happen here. If you don't, you're about to see it. Snowing in the panhandle of Texas, snowing back here in New Mexico, Colorado. Snow's dropping down. You have an all-out snowstorm, a winter storm breaking out across central and northern Texas, Oklahoma, and, most of Arkansas getting a winter storm. You're getting a winter storm in Texarkana. And then we'll go on and switch it now, and let's just look at the eastern U.S. frame here. Look at this thing right here. This is Wednesday morning, January the 8th. This is 258 hours out. This is going to change a lot. So I want you to look at this. This is a massive, massive winter storm. If you live in like southern Alabama, southern Georgia, and central and eastern sections of even the Carolinas, it's not a favorable low pressure. The storm gets too amped up too fast and begins to cut. But this is a massive winter storm for Tennessee. A lot of mixing here. There's no point in getting specific with this because it's going to change. Just look at this. You see the pinks, which is freezing rain, the oranges, which is sleet, and the blue, which is snow. Then show this is just a massive winter storm. And then, it continues to just drop significant winter weather across the western Carolinas. Tennessee, Kentucky brings just a massive winter storm into the mid-Atlantic, the Ohio Valley, all the way back here to Ohio, and then proceeds to deliver a huge winter storm for New England, the Northeast. And then, does anything happen after that? Well, we just get a lot of cold air, and I have no clue why Weather Bell is showing green, but that is snow. If you look at the temperatures where you're seeing the green, they are well below freezing. Have no idea. I think, and this is a joke, it's almost like it's so cold that it's glitching up Weather Bell. But you see the splotches of green with the snow, with the blue, that is snow. And there's so much energy diving down with this blast of cold air to follow. It is snowing in the Gulf of Mexico. There is a huge chunk of energy right here, but it's too positively tilted and it does not get its act together. For example, it is snowing in Tampa Bay on this run 354 hours out, the morning of January 12th, but it tells you the intensity of this cold air. It is snowing in Tampa Bay on this run. Now, folks, don't look at this, and trust me, I live in Columbia, South Carolina. You see this area just closest to the pink, and I'm getting nothing but rain. And I ain't gonna lie, I'm human. I look at this, I'm like, am I gonna get screwed? I'm not gonna get any weather from this. If you live somewhere in the green, do not get bugged out. Let's look at the run previous to this. This is the 12Z run. It showed absolutely nothing. Now this is the latest run. Boom, jump scare right there, winter storm. Okay, we're gonna get so much flip-flopping of the models. It's not even funny. So that's the latest GFS. That's the storm that's got everybody tripping out. What about the European model? A little energy the first weekend of January. Here comes the system that I'm pretty confident is going to happen. This is getting a week from today. Next Sunday morning, January the 5th, we got a pretty significant winter storm, a 997 low. This could bring severe weather to the south. We got to watch that. Ice is in the pink, sleet in the orange, but this brings a winter storm across the Midwest around the first weekend of January into the early portion of, I would say, the first full week of January. But this cuts a little bit more than the GFS does, and that kind of turns into just a lake effect snow machine up here as cold air spilling over the Great Lakes, and northwest flow is starting up, and we could get some interior northeast snow as we're getting into the 5th, 6th, or 7th time period. And then, just like the GFS, dumps a ton of cold air down, and we have this connection right here, kind of around the same time as the GFS. This is breaking out a winter storm across areas of Texas, Oklahoma. It's not a huge event. It looks like a large event, but that's relatively light precipitation. And, if I go on and switch it to the eastern U.S. frame here, you're thinking, oh, man, this is about to be a big winter storm for areas of the southeast. But what happens here is the cold air press is so strong, it basically shreds and suppresses the energy. And instead, we get this lone kind of area of precipitation down in the Gulf of Mexico, and it cannot link up with the cold air because the cold air push is so significant and strong. In fact, enough precipitation getting far enough into Louisiana, even Georgia, where there's a little bit of a wintry mix falling down here. So it's close. I mean, look how close it is. If this would bump up a little bit more, this would be snow in areas of the Carolinas. And then if there's anything happen behind that, it looks pretty dry. But there's a lot of energy flying around. Tons of energy flying around. Kind of under the hood, if you will. You just can't see it. Now, I will throw a bone to the Canadian model run, too. And it kind of develops that system I talked about, the first weekend in January into the 6th and 7th time frame. But it wants this to just be colder. So it actually delivers a little bit of a wintry mix all the way down to Carolinas and North Georgia. So it's a little bit different with the evolution of that. And then here comes a lot of cold air and moisture linking up. And the Canadian model only goes 10 days out, which I feel like most model guidance should. And it looks like it's about to whip up a winter storm across areas in the Mid-South and maybe even the Southeast, freezing rain falling in central South Carolina. And it's about to whip something up. But, we can speak on this until the cows come home. It's so far out. I know I always say there's no point in getting detailed with it, but I always end up talking detail because I can't help myself. But let's talk about the Euro ensemble for the central U.S., and we'll look at the eastern U.S. The central U.S. will start us off for Friday, January the 3rd. You got the signal right here for a little bit of snow. Then watch how it increases as we get into the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, the 9th, the 10th. We'll just go all the way to about the morning of the 12th. You see how the signal for snow increases more and more to the south and west. Not a very strong signal for North Texas, contrary to what the operational models are showing with that winter storm in Texas. But, it starts to increase pretty dramatically once you get into Arkansas, Missouri, and even northern and northeastern sections of Oklahoma and Kansas. And a pretty decent signal, especially driving off that winter storm potential for the first weekend of January that I keep talking about. I think that'll be the first storm we really latch on to and talk about a lot. And then we have to see what follows. Now, what about the GFS ensemble, which I believe the 18Z is running? Yeah, it's ran all the way through, so we're good here. And this is the 18Z GFS ensemble. This goes all the way through the morning of the 13th. This is not a forecast, guys. This is just an ensemble mean. Shows the signal for snow, all the way down to eastern Texas, Louisiana. It's not a high signal. And once you get further north, it begins to increase more. I do think the Midwest has a chance to get a winter storm out of this. The Great Lakes region, too, and maybe northern sections of like the Ohio Valley. We just have to watch to see how far north this low pressure cuts. I still think as we switch it to the eastern U.S., we'll start this off next Sunday morning, January 5th. I don't want to totally write off the storm for the weekend into that early the next week into the 6th and 7th. We could have a Miller B type setup, meaning we could still have a 50-50 low up here with low pressure coming down here, and this could funnel in a cold air damming event. Models keep teasing at that, but I wouldn't bet on that right now. But it's the same thing I've showed you on the last few videos. Watch what happens here. So I'll start off the morning of the 5th. Not a big time signal at all. Nothing too crazy. There's a snowfall signal up here where you typically get it this time of the year. The lake effect snow areas have a pretty solid signal. I think you're going to get some pretty intense lake effect snows up here from this and some northwest flow in the Appalachian Mountains. Now watch as I progress after the first weekend of January. We start to get into the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, the 9th. Look how much this is dropping. All the way to the morning of the 12th of January. That is the most impressive Euro ensemble snowfall mean that I've seen, I think, since, I don't even remember. Some people are saying this is the most impressive 12Z EPS Euro ensemble snowfall mean since like February of 2014. Some people said like 2022. I don't remember what it was. But this shows a 2-inch snowfall mean all the way into Columbia, South Carolina. 2.5, 3 inches in Atlanta. 4-inch snowfall mean average in Charlotte. The entire state of Tennessee, 3 to 4 inches. It's not a forecast, guys. But this is an incredibly impressive snowfall mean average on the Euro ensemble run for the South. And, it's there for the Northeast, too. Solid New York City to Boston, 6 to 7, 8-inch snowfall mean. This is impressive. It really is, guys. And I also want to show you this. Watch how, and this, I made a joke on social media this is the chances to see 1 inch of snow off the Euro ensemble run. This isn't Mitch's or anybody's forecast for 1 inch of snow percentage wise. This is just based off the Euro ensemble. Now I'm going to take it all the way through the length of the run, all the way through the morning of the 12th of January. If you live in the red area, it's a 100% chance of an inch or more snow. Okay, inch of snow is a lot bigger of a deal in the south than it is in the north, for obvious reasons, right? But it wants to give a 40 to 50 to 60% chance of 1 inch of snow in like Columbia, South Carolina, 70 to 80% chance in Charlotte, Raleigh, a little bit higher, and it's just, I mean, it's even given a chance of an inch of snow all the way to the Panhandle of Florida. So this is very impressive. Now, let's look at the GFS ensemble. I'll have to switch it to the 18Z. And I actually haven't looked at this one yet. So this is going to be new to me. Same thing, we'll start off all the way, this is about the evening of the 5th of January. Okay, not impressive. We start to dip into the 7th, the 8th. Okay, starting to sag south, the 9th, the 10th, dropping even more. Starting to get all the way to the ends. And this is the end of the run right here. Still a very impressive snowfall mean, especially for the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic. But, you know, at the end of the day, this is not a forecast of how much snow is going to fall. But it really just goes to show you that, you know, even though the operational run, the GFS, did not show anything for Columbia, I mean, and I live in Columbia. I'm just using this as an example. It didn't show anything in Atlanta either. The GFS ensemble run wants to average out about an inch of snow. And, you know, we compare this to the 12Z, and it's actually improved. I mean, that's a solid snowfall mean for even areas of the South. So look at the signal for the Mid-Atlantic, and we'll just kind of zoom into the Northeast. Snowy times ahead, guys. And I think that we're going to have multiple opportunities for winter storms. Now the portion where we'll kind of geek out with you a little bit. This is the first trough. This is going to deliver the first shot of cold air. You're going to have, and this is valid for next weekend. Let's just say next weekend. You're going to have cold air that kind of funnels down here, delivers that shot of cold air all the way down to the southeast and areas of the eastern U.S. Okay. Troughs digging down, a ridge spiking up. Then we have this area of energy that's going to come in and turn into just a full-fledged trough and really just back the trough up to the west. So let's get this back off your screen here. This trough is not going to get the job done the first weekend of January. The reason it does not is because it's positioned too far to the east. So basically, a lot of energy is just kind of flying down here. It cannot dig enough to really amplify. I mean, it can, but it's digging in the Atlantic Ocean because the jet is digging way back over here. So that mixed with the fact that we're not really getting a whole lot going in the southern stream, and even if we were, by the time that they connected, this thing would strengthen, but the precipitation from it will be too far off the eastern seaboard. What I'm basically trying to say is the ridge is positioned too far west, too far east. The trough is positioned too far east, and this is not going to cut it. Trough is way too far away. It delivers a shot of cold air, no doubt, but you're probably just going to get lake effect snow off this, and some northwest flow snow. Now, as this brief ridge spikes, we're going to get that storm system I keep talking about first weekend of January. So as we continue to move forward here comes another trough that digs down. This is positioned further to the west. And if we've trended this further to the west too. Now, this is a more favorable look for winter weather and a reinforcing shot of very cold air. So now you got the ridge over the western U.S. spiking all the way up into Alaska. We call that a negative EPO. This helps to dislodge cold air out of the Arctic. Okay. We also have this intense blocking up here in the redder colors. This is ridging. The blue is a troughing. Low pressure in the blue and the greenish color. High pressure in these warmer colors up here. We got high latitude blocking up here. This is kind of I would say clogging up energy down here. Okay, it's keeping our energy down here in just a consistent locking mechanism of pieces of energy kind of diving down here and just brings us the opportunity for a lot of energy down here in this trough, locking in place this dip in the jet stream like this. Okay, so blocking up here, ridge spiking up to Alaska, cold air diving down here in the backside of this trough, spilling out from the higher latitudes all the way into the lower 48. What about the energy? Well, I think that our southern stream is going to get a little bit more active. You can't see it, but I think waves can get going up under this ridge, spiking. We are definitely going to get plenty of northern stream energy diving down out of Canada. Maybe a little bit of energy kind of links up here, and then boom, a connection can be made, and then all of a sudden we get a winter storm risk in this entire area right here. Now, I know I circled like northern Florida, but you get what I'm saying here. You're going to have a winter storm potential, and the cold air is going to be bogging down so much, just getting thrown into this lower energy, lower pressure. I mean, this is a pattern that could support winter weather all the way down to the I-10 corridor. It's a pattern that supports that. It really does. This cold push of air is so intense. So energy diving down here, this trough is backed up further to the west. This allows energy to dive down further to the west. Therefore, it can dig more, amplify, get kind of neutrally tilted, and then tilt negatively, turning into a stronger, more powerful winter storm setup. So, I mean, this continues to look very impressive. Now, the trough might begin to back up to the east like all troughs eventually will, but still, plenty of energy diving down here, having an opportunity to connect with some southern stream energy. Boom, winter storm risk right into here. And, you could back this Texas too. Winter storm risk is possible. So, it's just a fantastic look for winter storm, higher latitude blocking, and you can look at the Vort energy here. You can see with the first trough, you see it how all the energy is way further up north. It's kind of just mainly northern stream energy with that first trough, and then the next trough dives down right here. Look at the energy further west. Okay, look, it's even like you see this little kind of this area right here poking out to the southwest. That's digging energy right here. You see energy down here with tons of cold air coming down. Man, you are just asking for the atmosphere to whip up a winter storm. And look at all this energy down south. So something is cooking down here, in my opinion. Now, talking about MJO phases is probably the part where I'll lose some people. But right now, we're probably in phase 7. That's probably the MJO phase we're in. Once you get into 8 and 1, even 2, okay, and I'm going to draw on this a little bit. Once you start to get into this, number 8, and then 1, and even 2, and even 7 can get the job done sometimes. Okay, what is it, the 28th? So, we're probably somewhere into this region right here. We're in phase 7. Once you start to get into phase 8, the background state, the tropical forcing supports cold air coming into the lower 48, and it also supports winter weather chances. Once you get into phase 1, it's game on. But phase 8 is very supportive for it also, and phase 2 is too. So you can see the progression, the Euro forecast for this. By the time we get into about the new year, we're starting to cook into phase 8. And then it shows it just kind of hanging out in phase 8 for the first 1/3 of January. And, if you compare it to some of these other forecasts, which are going to be a little bit different, we go to the Euro extended. It kind of cruises through phase 8 pretty fast and gets us in phase 1, and then it kind of goes into a null stage and just gets cluttered up here. You can look at, say, I think the CFC forecast. Here it is, the CFS forecast. I'm sorry, this cruises us right through phase 8, phase 1, phase 2, and then gets kind of cluttered up here. And you see the 5, the 7, the 9 here. That is the January 5, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. So we're also going to enter a very favorable phase that supports everything that I just discussed to you in this video. So everything supports it. And I think that's why the Climate Prediction Center 8 days ago started sounding the alarm on this before models really even began to go crazy about this. So very impressive stuff with the MJO forecast. And for once, it looks like this is going to actually materialize. So That's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all, and y'all have a wonderful night, and we'll do it again in the morning.